Hi again, everyone. I'm Chris, the teen librarian at Acton Memorial Library, and this is Sarah, a member of our patron services team. You will probably see her at the circulation desk. And today we are doing an episode of Book Swap where I make my coworkers read a young adult book that I think they might like. I didn't do so well on this term. And they give me a book that they really like from their chosen genre. So let's get into it. So I made Sarah read Icarus by Kay Ancrum, which I personally adored. Sarah was not as big a fan. So Sarah, what didn't you like about this book?
We're going to really start off
We are.
with the negative. Okay.
It's fine. We want to give a full review. It's
Okay.
I want to be so clear. I love this book. I don't think this is a bad book. It just wasn't Sarah's vibe. I chose poorly for Sarah. Go for it.
Okay. I definitely struggled with this book for a number of reasons. I think first and foremost, the thing that bothered me the most was that the whole plot is based upon petty hatred between two men that we don't know.
Okay.
I didn't like that.
That's valid. That's fair.
I'm a person who I really hate like the miscommunication trope that comes in like a lot of like romances and stuff. And I think when it comes down to the bones of this book, it is a petty hatred between two male characters that we don't know anything about. We don't know anything about Angus. We don't know anything about we know nothing about Mr. Black at all. He's such a one-dimensional character. And I just don't understand how I'm supposed to care.
Well, that's the beauty of it, in my opinion, is it is a story that at its core is about generational trauma. And you're looking at it not from the whole context picture of everyone's generational trauma. You're looking at it at the end point of the two teen main characters who are like, I don't know why we have this beef. I don't understand why we're doing all this crazy stuff. I have just been told that this is how we need to live our lives, and I've been doing it.
Yeah, and that I do really appreciate, because there were a couple quotes that I pulled that I actually really liked, and they both have to do with that.
Yeah.
Let me see. I wrote one down.
Sarah did homework.
I'm a perfectionist. This is like towards the end of the book, but it's a quote that Icarus says to his father, Angus. I wish that I could hate you. I wish that I could, but I can't, and that makes it worse. Understanding you has been the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Yeah.
And that I really liked.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and this one was right off the bat too, which gave me hope that I was going to like this book. This morning, as comfortable as it was, felt like stepping back in time. Maybe some parents are better suited to parenting children instead of teenagers.
Yeah, for sure.
And that I also really liked, because it felt like one of the moments of this book that wasn't maudlin, but was instead a really astute observation.
Yeah. And I think that is the struggle. I think the difficult part with this book, with some other people that have read it, is that the author, Kay Ancrum, has a very salient point. They know what they're doing. But the thing that I love about Kay Ancrum, that not everybody loves about Kay Ancrum,
hey, I can appreciate something without liking it,
is that what they do is they have their characters, even though they know what the point is, their characters are idiots. And they just do ridiculous. They're teenagers. I mean, teenagers are wonderful. I love teenagers very, very much. I know I'm not always in the majority on that opinion. But to me, out of all of the human developmental stages, teens are the most interesting, the most fun, the most funny. And I love them to bits and pieces, even when they're little jerks. And Icarus is a little jerk. And that's tough for a lot of adults to get past. Because if a full grown 30-something-year-old man acted the way this 16-year-old does, there would be problems. I would smack them.
Yes.
But this is a 16-year-old who has the craziest life.
Yes.
To clarify this book, his father makes forgeries of like famous paintings. He's really, really good at it. And he sends his son to go into houses where the real paintings are and to steal them and replace them with the forgeries.
One house.
Well, yeah, that's the main focus. I think they talked about they've done other jobs
Oh,
too,
really?
but the
Okay.
focus really is this one dude's house. And then we didn't talk about the point of the story.
Shall we summarize the book?
Yeah, go for it. What's your summary of this book?
Okay, I would say if I were to summarize this book, it would be about a boy named Icarus who is the son of a man named Angus. They are both work in art forgery. Angus is a professional. He has taught his son how to do this, have the same skills. Angus has a seemingly lifelong rivalry with this man named Mr. Black, who lives in a enormous mansion across from a diner. Sus. And
okay. It's not like a manor with grounds.
It has like Roman baths in the basement.
Okay, but it's like a fancy like it's think about New York and LA and like all these cities that have these old,
yeah, that's true,
ancient, beautiful like manor houses, but like it's a city. True. Yeah, don't look. This book has some genuine things you can have beef with, but that's not one of them.
I just thought it was weird. Anyway, so Angus sends his son Icarus to go steal genuine artwork from Mr. Black's collection and then replaces the stolen items with the forgeries that Angus and sometimes Icarus have created. But also this takes place in present day, and Icarus is also just a regular high school student.
Which you had trouble with.
Which I had trouble with.
But also, because it's Icarus, he meets Helios, who's Mr. Black's son.
Yes.
And he gets too close to the sun, whose name is Helios. Yeah, they have a whole romance. It's very cute.
Yes, so it's... and I think that's something else that I really struggled with this book, was that I felt that it was trying to be a lot of things, so much so that it didn't seem like coherent. It was trying to be a heist book. It was trying to be a romance book. It was trying to be a regular high school coming of age book. It was trying to be a book about, parents and their own trauma. And it just, to me, it was, I think it's very possible to do all of those things and put them in a book and have it be coherent and seamless. But I think there were a few things that I felt were, like fighting each other.
Yeah.
For like pacing and tone, that I struggled with.
One of which was the art heist.
Yeah.
Cat burglar going to high school.
Yeah. I just like... Okay. The fundamental... The thing that goes... the thing that goes hand in hand with this petty hatred between these two men we know nothing about.
Sure.
Is so much of this book is Icarus talking about how high the stakes are. And that's all he does is talk about how high the stakes are.
Because are the stakes really high?
No.
No, they're not. He's the epitome of an unreliable narrator.
And see, that's a fault.
You're fine. She hit her mic. It's cool.
Sorry. That's a fault of mine, because I really struggle sometimes with unreliable narrators, because I'm someone who kind of like takes it at face value. Critical reading skills could be a little better over here, but hey, we're trying. I guess I just don't like when I'm being told something and being shown something completely different.
Sure.
And that's the epitome of this, like, of the stakes of this book,
Yes.
is that Icarus says the world is going to end. I'm going to be in so much trouble. I have to create all of these rules for myself
Right.
about not having friends, not having a girlfriend, not having a boyfriend, not having close relationships, not going to parties,
Mm-hmm.
like literally robbing himself of his entire life
Right.
because he thinks.
Because he's been told.
But does Angus ever tell him? We never see it. So we don't actually know if Angus has told him this. This is just, and that's, I think, what was confusing to me, is that, like, what Icarus is telling us and what Angus is showing us are two very, very different things. And then what happens is Icarus, as the plot develops, goes directly against those rules that he's created for himself, or that he says Angus has created for him.
Right.
And nothing happens. Nothing bad happens.
Right.
Like, Angus is literally like, cool, do you want to go on a week-long vacation? Okay, have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, that's odd, but alas, if I had the opportunity to do that in high school, I definitely would have.
Sure. But that's, I mean, and I don't know if you read the afterword or the author's note, but that's kind of what part of what Ancrum was getting at is, like, it's not like Icarus decided to do this all on his own. He didn't decide to break his rules. He wasn't like, you know what? F this. I'm going to go have friends. That's not what happened. Instead, Helios and these people around him at school who had heard him say some real concerning things were like, actually, we're not going to let you be a loner anymore. We're going to check in with you, and, like, we're going to, like, and eventually they're like, oh, hey, you're actually, a pretty cool person. We're going to be your friend as well, like, even deeper.
Yeah.
But, like, it is all about teens helping teens and, like, finding, because parents suck a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, there's some fantastic parents out there. The best parents in the world will mess you up a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, even, the best parent in the world is still going to leave some sort of trauma on their child, because that's just how it works.
Right. And, teens are at the stage where, regardless of how good their parents are, they're really in the stage where they're moving away.
Yeah.
And moving more towards the importance of peer relationships and things like that. And so that's like, this book was moving past your generational trauma, maybe not necessarily healing from it, because we don't see what Icarus does with his kids, if he has kids, but, like, moving past it and realizing that your parents and their weird stuff does not define you as a human being.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was beautiful. I know you didn't like it that much,
well,
but that's okay.
If that was the message that I received, I would have liked it. But I think, okay, now that we're talking about it, I think there's one significant thing getting in the way of all of this, and this is my life experience.
Okay.
Growing up a military brat, I was bullied my whole life. I really struggled to make friends. I struggled to keep friends. I was so lonely growing up. No one ever reached out to me. There were never kids that helped me. No one ever said, wow, you look really lonely. I just got the crap bullied out of me.
Right.
And I think that's my personal life lens reading this book, is making me look at Celestina, at Luca, at Julian, like, as so unrealistic.
Right.
Because I would show up to school every single day miserable, and I swear to God, if someone bought me a coffee every single day, my life would have changed.
100%. 100%. And it's not like my experience was much more similar to your experience than it was to Icarus's. But I think part of the power of young adult fiction is that these authors, like, actively, teens are trying to figure out the world. They're trying to figure out their own morality. They're trying to figure out how they're going to come at it. And authors like Kay Ancrum, like any young adult author, have the power to show teens how their choices can impact other people in a really powerful way that they might not have experienced before. So they read this book and they see all these people, Julian included. Julian's a jock. That's why Sarah was all like, ah. Julian's a jock, right?
It wasn't the jock part. It was the unsolicited succession of coffees that I found very bizarre.
That's a crush, baby. Like, that's a crush through and through. Julian has the biggest crush on Icarus.
Well, that brings me to another thing. But...
And he has the confidence to be like, I'm going to flirt with you with coffee every day until you like me. That's a crush.
I guess I just like, but everybody in this book has a crush on Icarus. Like,
Well, he's canonically described as being, like, I mean, he's a teenage boy, but he's, like, cute. And mysterious.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's just not your type. It's okay.
No, I mean, I love cute and mysterious. I just think it felt like a fan club. It didn't feel like friendships.
Sure. At the beginning, for sure.
Yeah.
But it definitely develops.
And I agree with you. The only two that I actually believed the progress with was Celestina and Luca, because of the day they got drunk together and slept over at Icarus's house.
Right.
That's the only thing that I was like, okay, now I believe it. But like Sorrel and Julian, these characters I found to be superfluous.
Are you telling me that you've never had random people giving you attention? Did you just not notice it? Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, I'll stop torturing you. It's fine. Oh yeah, but I loved Icarus. I think it was fantastic. I'm sorry you didn't enjoy it as much.
I wanted to.
Yeah.
I really did, because the idea of it is cool. I just, I wanted to.
Yeah, don't worry. Next time I'll give you one you like better. Okay. To be clear, she told me she wanted surreal and messy. So that's what I gave her. It is very surreal and messy. You know, it's just a teenage boy, so
hey, it's more annoying. Sometimes you gotta take a dose of your own medicine. Maybe I am, in fact, surreal and messy.
Yes.
And it is too much for me.
Speaking of surreal and messy, there's nothing more surreal and messy than a mountain lion going through Hollywood talking about the people he meets in verse. The whole book is in verse.
Yes.
It's open throat. I loved this book. It's super short. Genuinely forgot that we were filming today, so I read it in 45 minutes this morning. So it's real quick. It is entirely in verse, which I love. I just love books in verse because, especially listening to them, like, it gets people past the barrier of poetry. Because a lot of times you can't even fully tell that it is poetry when you're listening to it.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't know it was in verse because you listened to it, right?
Yes, I did.
So then when I picked it up, I was like, oh, it is in verse. For sure. But because I love poetry, but it's tough for people when there's like a little short poem to like really dive into the flow of the language. And so I love that books in verse let you really like immerse yourself a little bit more. And then the whole concept of the story, a mountain lion in, Hollywood Park, whatever that park is called. Griffith Park underneath the Hollywood sign. Just like living his life and listening to humans. And it starts off crazy. There's some crazy moments in this book that I'm not going to explicitly talk about. This is not a teen book. This is not for teenagers. I mean, read what you're going to read, but if you're an adult, don't have, you might be upset if your teen read this book. Maybe, I don't know, live your life. But it was very, very good. Oh my god, there were a couple of moments. So at one point, this like crazy teenager it's just like finds the mountain lion like taking shelter in her basement, and she's like, you know what would be cool is if I just made this like cougar my pet and like it lived in my room with me and I fed it raw chicken and like took it to Disney World.
Yeah. Basically
Disneyland, sorry.
The plot of the book is from the perspective of a queer mountain lion who is a resident of Griffith Park in California, and it's the story of basically how he kind of gets pushed out of Griffith Park and what he does.
Right. And it's based on a real lion, right?
It is.
Who, like,
it
got caught in Griffith Park, which is really... Because, I mean, okay, it's a lion living in Griffith Park. how do you think it ends? I'm not gonna spoil it, but let's be real. um, it's not a happy book, but there were. It's a weird book. It's a great book.
It's very. I think it's like very poignant and
Yeah.
really just.
I have to say the first like chapter with Whipman, and I'm like,
Yeah, it gets right in there.
it just goes. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I found this like a deeply moving book.
Yes.
The emotion in the book was like visceral and unfiltered,
Yeah.
with this external observation on humanity and what it means to be human and what it means to be
Yes.
animal. And
Yes.
there's something I wanted to ask you about too. There's this a very large parallel between the perspective of this creature and what it means to be other, whether that means queer or a different race, but it's
Right.
very like a lot of commentary on being other,
Right.
feeling other.
He just wants to be part of a group. He's constantly finding little human groups to like latch onto with his little cat brain,
which is so inherently heartbreaking because he is a predator.
Right. And like every time, like the girl who keeps him in her room is a different thing. But most of the time, the humans see him and freak out because, of course, they are. They're going to freak out and they're going to, like, there's one point where he saves a man from like being burned to death, and the man is like, "I'm gonna eat me," and he's like, "I'm really not," and they like throw stones at him, and he runs away.
And it's so sad because it's like he identifies with these people so much. He calls them in the book. He says that they're my people. He like really thinks he's part of their tribe, and when he steps in to go save them from a fire, they
throw rocks at him.
They throw rocks at him. It's just it's so heartbreaking.
It's so heartbreaking. And then he meets this girl, and this girl like isn't inherently afraid of him at first, but she treats him like a pet. She treats him like, it's so demeaning. And oh my gosh, hold on. My two quotes that I did were from that section, and they're like pages from each other. So like first she meets him and like she brings him up to the room, and his like, he says, if you feel alone in the world, find someone to worship you, because he thinks that she's like being worshipful and like really loving him. And then literally 2 pages later he says, I feel more like a person than ever because I'm starting to hate myself. And I was like, oh my God.
Goosebumps, literal goosebumps. I just got them.
It's like, baby, I'm so sorry.
And I think that really speaks to like, trying to confine yourself within a mold.
Yeah.
He says, I can't be myself out in the wild. I can't be seen anything other than a predator with these people that I deeply care about. So I'm going to try and do it the other way. I'm going to go completely opposite, and I'm going to domesticate myself.
Right.
And even then,
there's a moment
it doesn't work.
When he's domesticated himself where he like sees a cat, like a house cat, looking in the window, and the cat is like, I just killed a bird.
Oh, it's so heartbreaking. And he just looks at this like little small outdoor cat, and he's just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I feel so that resonates so much with me because we try on all these different versions of ourselves,
right?
And when they don't fit, it feels terrible,
right?
And I think there's, I'm not sure if this is from the same part, but this reminds me of one of the quotes that I pulled from the book, which is, I can't fix this. I have no idea what it's like to be a person and to be confronted with a me.
Yeah. It's crazy. Oh, it's such a good, and like, it's so heartbreaking. The whole thing is so hard because he's like never hurt a human until he does. And it's at the very end, and he's hurting the human who hurt his humans. And he's like trying to make them understand. And he's like the last line of the book is like, he opens his mouth to try to explain. Hold on, what does he say? Maybe the padded people know why I did what I did. Maybe they understand. I say something. It sounds like words. It's not what they want to hear. And then that's the end of the book. And it's so sad.
It's so sad. The amount of times I cried reading this less than 200-page book was more than I care to admit.
Right. But it's such a beautiful, it's a really beautiful story about environmentalism and othering and like it's just so powerful. And I
Yeah.
wanted his people to find him again and be like, oh yeah, I know I was scared of you, but like, you saved me, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's never gonna happen because you're a lion.
And I think there's like a lot of parallels to between Icarus
Right.
and this book because it's about trying to understand yourself.
Right.
I
I fully feel like Icarus, grown up, having dealt with some of his mess, would write like Henry Hoke.
yeah. Wow, I think you're right.
Yes, I know. And that's why I love them. They're like the starts of stories. They're just the little seed of like who a person could become, and they're just full of potential and like interestingness, and like it's so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm gonna turn your mind around on teenagers. She doesn't hate teenagers.
I don't hate teenagers.
But yes, I do think Icarus would write like Henry Hoke. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a couple quotes now that we're talking about it, I don't think I quite realized how many parallels there are between these two books. Hey, that's what discussion is for, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
A father to a kitten is an absence. A grown cat to a father is a threat.
Right.
Like,
right?
Yeah. And then this other one too, I found this deeply resonating with me, but I also feel like it would resonate with Icarus if he were to hear it.
Yeah.
I have so much language in my brain and nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
And it's just these like really astute, simple statements of open throat that are so just like jarring and just deeply emotional that, oh God, it's just such a good book. But
it is. Yes. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really great.
I don't think I've ever read anything like it. Granted, I don't think I've ever read anything like Icarus either. They're too.
I'm like wondering if like 5 years down the road you come back to Icarus and you reread it and you're like, oh.
I mean, that's a possibility.
Yeah, you're just not in the right headspace for Icarus at the moment.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it has to do a lot with the lens with which I'm viewing it through. Right. I think I relate more to the mountain lion of open throat than I do to Icarus. Therefore,
right. But I think Icarus also relates to the mountain lion.
I agree with you.
I think he would. I think it's just his brain is a jumble, and you are reading this book from the point of view of his brain.
Yeah.
His very mentally ill, confused little brain.
Yeah.
He's such a little.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even talk about Helios at all.
Oh, Helios is such a little soft boy. He's a little cinnamon roll, like ballet dancer. He's a sweetie.
I just felt like he had no agency.
Well, he didn't.
But he just is like, Icarus, save me. And that's it.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Sarah!
What?
He isn't actually like that. I mean, he is to a point, but like...
I just felt like he didn't have much of a personality.
From Icarus's point of view.
He was just someone who needed to be saved.
From Icarus's point of view.
Yeah.
This whole book is from Icarus's point of view. It's the people who save him, the people who need to be saved, and the person that he's saving them from.
Yeah.
That's it. That's how he has categorized the world, because he can't handle anything else.
Yeah. I guess I just need more, I have more depth or something. It's just, I felt like so many of the characters are so surface level, and it's like I have a really hard time caring about things I don't know.
Right.
And I think that was like fundamentally.
Yeah, and I get it. I do understand that, but the reason that those people were so one-dimensional was because that's how Icarus was viewing them.
Yeah, I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand it.
You just hate them.
I just don't like that.
Somebody do a fan fiction of Icarus where there's multiple POVs.
I think, a lot of my favorite books are books that are just stories about people.
Yeah.
Like I really loved Cleopatra and Frankenstein, which is just
Mm-hmm.
about two people and their love story and
Mm-hmm.
the marriage and
Mm-hmm.
disillusionment of their marriage. And you get to really understand them as people. And I
Sure.
think the fact that I did not understand anyone as people,
Yeah.
independent people,
Yeah.
was part of what made me struggle.
Which is so interesting because, Open Throat, I would say, is a perfect example of the main character giving full three-dimensionality to all of the people that he meets.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
absolute sarcasm. He does not do that. He's a lion.
I think that there's the depth of observation.
Yeah, he listens to them.
Yeah.
But most of them aren't given three-dimensionality.
Because I think that the story isn't about the other people. I think the story is about the mountain lion's experience.
Okay.
I guess to me, it didn't come off that way. It felt like it was trying to be about other people. It was trying to be about Mr. Black and Celestina and Luca. It was trying to make it about them. I think,
yeah.
To me, maybe that's part of this confusion I'm having about what the book is trying to be, the way it feels like it's all these different things. I even wrote down, there's actually a quote in the book that I felt was like, wow, this actually describes the book itself. It was, or maybe I don't have it. I know I wrote it down somewhere. Oh yeah, it's like two artworks in one, but it's not ... worth anything. You could probably argue that it isn't even art. And that I felt like was a really astute description of the book itself, because it was trying to be too many things to the point where it didn't even feel like a cohesive novel.
Yeah.
Also, I had a really big problem with Helios just diagnosing Icarus with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I'm sorry. And then Icarus is like, did you even know, Dad, that we had this syndrome? that to me, I'm sorry, just felt like chronic. That was what I was going to say, felt chronically online, was, self-diagnosing is very popular right now on TikTok and everything, which I think is a great resource, but I think sometimes it's a little,
sensationalist.
Yes, thank you. And this just felt like it got pulled right out of TikTok and thrown right into this book. And to me, that just,
very of the time.
Yeah, it just, like I said, it just felt chronically online. It was like, ugh. That was really a big nail in the coffin for me, was the EDS syndrome, the EDS diagnosis.
Oh goodness.
I'm curious what Kay Ancrum's other books are about.
I mean, at the heart of them is a lot of soft boy queer relationships.
Are they all boys? All male main characters?
All the ones I've read.
Interesting.
Kay Ancrum himself is intersex. But they have a lot. They write a lot.
Yeah.
I can definitely get you some more of their other books and just see if you just are not a fan of Kay Ancrum. If you want to test that theory,
maybe
or
in
I can
6
get
months.
you some palette cleansers, some stuff that I know you'll like.
Yeah,
for sure. Nothing surreal and messy, because you only like that when it's adult women.
I think so. Yeah, I think the age thing probably has a lot to do with it, because I think
there's a certain immaturity that comes when you have, if you want to make your teen main character believable, there has to be a certain immaturity.
Yes, and I agree with you.
Yeah, but it does throw off. It makes the messiness different. It makes the messiness. It can make the messiness frustrating, because you're like, what are you doing, child?
And I think that's something else too. Is that so? There's nothing more that I can't stand in the world than movies that are just comedies of error. Like when watching someone do the wrong thing over and over and over again, and that is the inherent plot of the book or the movie. I can't tell you how much anxiety it gives me.
Sure.
And
yeah,
this felt not the same,
mm-hmm.
but a little similar.
Yeah, just frustrating.
Which is also wild because you know what I really love
mm-hmm.
are movies and television shows that are about high school kids.
But here's the thing about movies and television shows
Yeah.
about high school kids. You know where you're not? In their brain.
Yeah.
They don't narrate it. You are actually seeing what's happening.
Yeah, and I think if we had discussed any element of this book before I had read it,
mm-hmm.
if we had discussed, okay, this is from the perspective of a teenager, like take it all with a grain of salt, I think I would have had a completely different experience.
Right.
But like I said, I really have a hard time with that, and sometimes I just take it all at face value, and
sure.
I think that I would have probably resonated more with Icarus if I had gone into this experience knowing that I couldn't trust him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not trustworthy.
He's not.
He's a little idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, I love him, but he's an idiot.
Yeah. No. I did really like the owner of the diner. I thought he was a great character.
The one non-villainous adult.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I really liked him.
Cool. Well, on that note, this has been Book Swap. You can check out either of these books or both at the Acton Memorial Library. They will be available in approximately 10 minutes when we check them back in because we do have them checked out at the moment. But if you want to read, if you want to read Open Throat and then wonder what he might have been like as a teenager,
give Icarus a shot.
Yeah, that sounds like a great weekend to me. So come check them out. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. I believe with Carrie is who I'm meeting with next. So thanks, guys.
Also,
Bye.
if you've read either of these books, comment and tell us your thoughts.
Yes, tell us your thoughts. Did you hate Icarus? Did you love the mountain lion? Hecate. Hilarious name for a cat.
I know. We
yes.
want to know.
We want to know. Tell us.
I'm desperate to know.
Yes, absolutely. Give us your feedback. Validate Sarah's opinions.
I need it.
She needs it real bad because I'm not doing it.
Bye. Thank you.